بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Alhamdulillah, we begin our lesson by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity for us to continue in the commentary of Aqaid Nasafiyah by Al-Imam Taftazani, and we pray that Allah bless us and with understanding and bless us and with iman and taqwa, and make any this lesson as a reason where our Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answer any our prayers, forgive our sins, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us in the month of Sha'ban and make us rich in Ramadan and protect us from all difficulties, trials and tribulations in dunya and akhirah. Ameen Ya Rabbal Alameen. So inshallah ta'ala, as usual, we will do a bit of revision on what we have covered in our last lesson. So basically, we have entered into speaking about the Sophists. So basically, what we have covered as a summary, the author Al-Imam Taftazani mentioned about the establishment of realities, that realities are existent, are in existence, and the knowledge on the existence of those realities are affirmed. Khilafan li Sophists, the Sophists, the Sophists, they differ with us with regards to the number one, establishment of the realities of things. Number two, is the knowledge towards those realities, and that's number two. Number three, is the possibility of those realities be in existence. So the Sophists basically, they are not in agreement with the Muslims in this regard, who believe in the establishment of realities, and this is something that is rational, not only Muslims but also a lot of non-Muslims. They agree to the fact that this world there is realities, the things that in existence exist within their reality. It is not something that is imaginary. It is not any khayal or any illusion. So the Sophists basically they deny the existence of things, and they mention that those existence of these realities are only imaginary. It doesn't have a real existence in the outside. So this is where we are speaking about. First thing we spoke about the establishment of those realities, knowledge is affirmed, and then he goes to speak about khilafan lil Sophists. So that's what you can see, khilafan list of Sophists. And Sophists, as what we mentioned last week, there are three types of Sophists, three types of Sophists. Al-Imam Taftazani basically he generalized the school of thought of the Sophists into three categories. So even today, if you look at their philosophy and their ideology, all of the things that are present today, it can be traced back to these three main categories of the Sophists. So he spoke about number one, is the Ainadiyya, those who reject all realities of things. And then we have the Indiyya, those who ascribe to relativism, if it is based on your belief, and if you believe this is a substance and it is a substance, if you believe this is an accident, then this is an accident. So this is al-Indiyya. And then we have the last one, that is al-Adriyya, and today we usually we call it as agnosticism. That when a person mentioned that I do not know for sure whether a particular term exists or does not exist, so it can be in existence or it not be in existence. So he's not affirming anything. He take an agnostic stance or stance of skepticism in everything. So we will get again what he mentioned. So he said khilafan li Sophists fa inna minhum. So you can go back to your to your notes and the PDF of the commentary of Taftazani, and we are now at page 25. So he mentioned فَإِنَّ مِنْهُمْ مَنْ يُنْكِرُ حَقَائِقَ الْأَشْيَاء. So this is the first category that is called Inadiyah. What is an Inadiyah? Man yunkiru haqa'iq al-ashya. So they are basically people who reject that there are existential and things that have any realities with them. So this is an Inadiyah. وَيَزُمُ أَنَّهَا أَوْهَامٌ. So to them, all these things around us that we see as real, human beings and animals and books and buildings, all of this is awham and khayalat. It is imagination. So imagine you, to us this thing is a reality, and it is a glass and it has space. Likewise any human beings and it is an existing and reality, the things around us. But the Inadiyah, there are people who to them all these are imaginary and they have no real existence, no real existence. So this is basically the meaning of Al-Inadiyah. So today, when I look at this particular term, how are we able to understand, how are we able to pinpoint, for example, who are these people and what are the names that they ascribe to today. So I come to the conclusion that they are the nihilists. They are the nihilists, and those who ascribe to nihilism. So if you read about nihilism and what you call it, and Friedrich Nietzsche, for example, you will find that it is clear that their stance is basically they are speaking about there's no meaning in life, and there is no any realities that is in existence, and even when they speak about science. And for example, Nietzsche wrote a book, gay science, that he mentioned there's no any reality in science, and there's no reality in the existence of God, and he wrote a book, and God is dead, and so on and so forth. So this is the kind of philosophy that some of them ascribe themselves to. But the problem is until today, this understanding is still prevalent, and is something that exists in communities, and especially in the West. Then he mentioned after that, وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يُنْكِرُ ثُبُوتَهَا وَيَزْعُمُ أَنَّهَا تَابِعَةٌ لِلْإِعْتِقَادِ. So the second category, those who believe that the realities can be established, can be. So now you see the thing, there is some doubt. It can be established, but it is relative. It is relative to your belief. So he said, "Hatta in i'taqadna ash-shay'a jawharan fa jawhar." If we believe that this particular thing is a substance, then it is a substance. Aw aradan fa aradun. If you believe it's as an accident or an attribute, then it's an attribute. Aw qadiman fa qadimun. If you believe it is what you call eternal, then it's eternal. Aw hadis fa hadis. If it's contingent, it's contingent. Wa hum al-indiyah. This is what we mentioned. Al-indiyah, those who ascribe to relativism and subjectivism. And in philosophy, we have this thing called relativism, subjectivism. So they ascribe to this kind of philosophy. And this is a lot happening in America in reality. They feel the importance to what you call it, to improve their society. So they begin to accept everyone. So it is okay, whatever you want to believe, you can believe. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to us, because to us there is what you call it, no reality as true reality. All types of realities are relative. So if you believe such a religion is true, then it is true for you. If you don't, then it's okay. For others who believes that it is not, he doesn't want to believe in God, so that is also okay. What is important is that we believe we live in harmony. So at the end of the day, they do not have any profound belief that they hold on to. So this is al-indiyah. And then he mentioned وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يُكِرُ الْعِلْمَ. The third category is those who reject knowledge bisubuti shay. Reject knowledge, meaning the impossibility for you to know the reality. So even if the reality is in existence, but it is impossible for you to have the knowledge to understand that reality. So what they are rejecting, the knowledge that brings you towards understanding of the reality. So this is the difference between the third category and the second category. So the second category reject the establishment of realities, whereas the third category reject the possibility of knowledge. The possibility of knowledge. So this is what he said, وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يُكِرُ الْعِلْمَ بِثُبُوتِ شَيْءٍ وَلَا ثُبُوتِهِ. So they are in doubt, they are saying that you cannot possess the knowledge to establish a particular reality, nor to deny the establishment of a particular reality. وَيَزْعُمُ أَنَّهُ شَاكٍ. So they take this approach of skepticism, that they are skeptical about all things, that we do not possess the knowledge, so we should not affirm on anything, whether such a reality exists or it doesn't exist. وَشَاكٌ فِي أَنَّهُ شَاكٍ. And he is also skeptical that he is skeptical. He has doubts that he on himself. وَهَلُمَّ جَرَّى وَهُمَّ لَا أَدْرِيَ. So this is what Al-Imam Al-Tafzani mentioned as Allah Adriya. And La Adriya basically is a stand where people do not affirm to anything, nor they deny they take the middle. They take the middle stance. So this is what in nowadays it is called agnosticism. And many people nowadays they ascribe to this kind of philosophy, and especially in the West. So when it comes to nihilism in Al-Inadiyya, not many people ascribe because they know there's a lot of problems to nihilism, that when you reject all forms of realities in terms of moral realities, and in terms of epistemological realities, metaphysics, and you are saying there is no realities at all, it brings to a lot a lot of problems. And one of the example, for example, a person might say that what the Nazi did was good as far as the Nazi are concerned, but to us it is something that is bad. But because to the fact that there is no realities out there, so that it is meaningless. It is meaningless to affirm something is good or something is bad. So it brings a lot of problems. It brings a lot of problems. It can bring to a situation where you can justify an act of injustice to be justice, or an act of justice to be injustice. So that is why a lot of people they know the problems of this philosophy, and they do not ascribe this to this philosophy of nihilism, which I see it as what Al-Imam Al-Tazani mentioned as al-Inadiyya. But when it comes to Indiyya, this is relativism, and this is one of the philosophy of post-modernism, where they ascribe to this philosophy of relativism, and they say there's no such thing as what you call it, objective reality is something that is subjective. It depends on the eyes of the beholder. If you think it is such, then it is such. If you think it is true, then it is true. If you think that it's not true, then that is not true. And then when it comes to La Adriya, as what we mentioned, agnostic, it is a stand of skepticism, that a person is skeptic in everything. So they do not mention anything of realities, because they are saying that we do not possess the knowledge, so we should not be affirming things, nor we should not reject them. So then Al-Imam Al-Tafzani rebut the first type of Sophista'iyya. The first type of Sophista'iyya are the Al-Inadiyya. So let us look at what Al-Imam Al-Tafzani mentioned. And before, inshallah, of course, after this, we go back to the translation, and you can see. You can see basically in the English text. So now he rebuts the al-inadiyya. So he said tahqiqan lana tahqiqan, based on our madhab. Imam Tafzani says, our madhab in Islam. Our madhab in Islam, how we see this inadiyah, this thing that we can call it as nihilism and so on. They are the ones who reject realities of all things. So for us, he said, أن نجزم بالضرورة بثبوت بعض الأشياء بالعيان وبعضها بالبيان. So to us, we say that there are realities that we witness them with our senses, and some of it with explanations and knowledge and rational thinking. So for example, when we are thirsty, we find a drink, and when we drank the drink, we became quenched from our thirst. So we understood the reality of hunger, and we understood the reality of thirst, and we also understood the function of water. So this can be understood by senses, that you feel hungry, you feel thirsty. So this is something to us is darura. It is based on simple knowledge, and you don't need to make it complicated in order for you to understand that these realities exists. So this is what he say, an najzima bi darurati. Darura here meaning simple knowledge. Darura meaning simple knowledge. And for example, we say fire burns, it is a reality. Winter is cold, summer is hot. So we can feel the coldness, and we can feel the heat. So we understood. So this is based on our senses. بِثُبُوتِ بَعْضِ الْأَشْيَاءِ بِالْعَيَانِ وَبَعْضِهَا بِالْبَيَانِ. And there are certain other things that we can understand through rational thinking. Through any rational thinking. And for example, if we hear someone is knocking at the door, we know then there is a person who is behind the door, even though we do not see that particular person. But this is an indication, it is a signification that someone is at the door. And when you see smoke, you know there is any fire. So all these are realities that can be explained, even though you do not see it with your own eyes. But rationally, it is something that can be understood on those realities. So this is the first point that Al-Imam Taftazani rebutted al-inadiyah. Because inadiyah is saying that we do not believe in the existence of any reality. So Al-Imam Taftazani mentioned to us based on our madhab, on our way and our school of thought and our religion, is that we can use our senses to establish to understand the existence of those realities. So this is point number one. Point number two, is based on ilzaman. Now he is countering their argument. What did he say? He said annahu. He said in lam yatahaqqaq nafyul ashya'i faqad sabatat. So he said the argument of inadiyah, there are two aspects of it. Number one, if they say inadiyah, if they say that these realities do not exist, but if they are wrong, meaning if they make a mistake, for the realities are in existence. The realities are in existence, because they are just making a claim. They are just making a claim. If the claim is false, then these realities are in existence, and that they are established. So this is the first aspect. The second aspect, he said, wa in tahaqqaqa wa nafyu haqiqatun min al haqa'iq. So the second aspect is that there are rejection of the realities. Their rejection of their realities itself is a reality. The rejection of something, itself is a reality. This is what Al-Imam Taftazani mentioned. So when we say that the rejection of a particular thing itself is a reality, meaning they believe in realities, because their own rejection of the realities itself is a reality. So when they claim that they do not believe in the existence of realities, they are contradicting themselves. As though Imam Taftazani is saying, how can you claim that you are rejecting all forms of realities, despite you are negating those realities, and your negation is part of a reality. So this is what he said. He said, wala yakhfa. He said, one nafyu. This is what he said. One nafyu haqiqatun. Now we have to ponder in this statement. وَالنَّفْيُ حَقِيقَةٌ مِنَ الْحَقَائِقِ. The rejection of something itself is a reality from amongst the realities. لِكَوْنِهِ نَوْعًا مِنَ الْحُكْمِ. Because it is any part of a ruling. Whenever you negate something, it is a ruling. When you establish something, it is a ruling. Likewise, when you negate something, itself is a ruling. So he is saying that the inadiyah, those who reject the realities of things, in reality contradicting themselves, because their rejection is part of what you call it, is part of a reality. فقد ثبتت شيء من الحقائق فلم يصح نفيها على الإطلاق. So this is an extension of what he mentioned. For verily, part of the reality is established by their rejection. فلم يصح نفيها على الإطلاق. So he said that it is not any permissible for a person to reject all forms of realities. It is not any possible and permissible, because rejection itself is part of a reality. ولا يخفى أنه إنما يتم على العنادية. So this is the counter argument towards al-inadiyya. So as though he's saying this only for the inadiyya, not for the indiyya and la adriyya. The indiyya and la adriyya have different counter arguments. And then he mentioned their claims, some of their claims and their arguments. If a person asks how come they reject all forms of realities, what you call it, since we are able to use our senses to understand any realities of things around us. So how do these people reject such realities? So basically, these people they have their own understanding, their own concept. So now Al-Imam Taftazani is giving a few of their understanding on so many of these things. So this is what their claim. This is what their claim. So Al-Imam Taftazani is going to put forth their claim. Then after that he comes with the counter argument. This is the way of the author. So first he spoke about what they said. So he said qalu, they said ad-daruriyatu minha hissiyat. He said that simple knowledge of things, it is part of it is from the empirical senses and knowledge. How we understand the things around us. For example, if you look at a person and this is a human being, this is daruriyat, meaning you do not really have to think and ponder upon the existence of this reality. When we look around us, for example, and you see books and that there are books that are in existence. You look at animals and this is a horse. You look at this particular animal and this is a cow. So how you get this knowledge, it is through your senses. So the first thing they said, the first premise they say, that since part of knowledge of realities, understanding realities, is that we get through our senses. But the problem is, they say, وَالْحِسُّ قَدْ يَغْلَطُ كَثِيرًا. But our senses, at many a times, their claim, made mistakes. Our senses and many a times made mistakes. What do they mean? Any senses and made mistakes? So they give an example. Kal ahwali yaul wahida isnain. Just like a person who has some problems with his eyes, he sees one thing like two things, like a mirror image, because of the shortcoming in the eyesight. So he cannot depend on his eyesight. So if he were to depend on his senses, it will give him the wrong information. So it cannot be depended upon. So at times there are mistakes that comes from the senses. So this is one example. The second example he gave was Safrawi yajidul hulwa murra. Safrawi is a type of sickness where a person has difficulty in tasting food. That a person lost the sense of taste. So if you give this person al-hulwa, something that is sweet, he feels it is sour. He feels that it is sour. But in reality, this thing is sweet. But how come he feels that it is sour? It is because of the shortcoming in his sense. The shortcoming in his sense of taste. Since he is afflicted by this by this any disease. So this is any their claim, and they are saying that you cannot depend on your senses, because any our senses any differ any from one person to another. Some person any can see far, some person any can see near. Those any who are unable any to see well, any for example they look something walk past any in the sky, and some people might saying there is a jet, or some people any might saying any there is shooting star. So people any have all these any differences any when comes any to knowledge any based any on the senses. Then any he said waminha badihat, and from amongst any this knowledge any that we get from the senses is knowledge of badihi. Knowledge of badihi are simple any knowledge. When knowledge any you base any on your base any on what any you see, which you do not any require any much any contemplation. وَقَدْ يَقَعُ فِيهَا اِخْتِلَافَاتٍ. And that's what you mentioned, that based any on this type any of sense, normal any sensing, that there are differences any amongst people. Some people any sees any certain things, some people any sees any certain things. So there are many any differences if we were to depend any on our senses, even any if we speak any about simple knowledge. Al-ilmu daruri. وَتُعْرَضُ شُبَهٌ يَفْتَقِرُ إِلَى حَلِّهَا إِلَى أَنْضَارٍ daqiqa. So all this any differences any we are in need any to ponder and what you call it, and look any at those things any in a proper any proper way, that we have to any solve any these things, and we are in need any to ponder any upon any such things properly, so that any we can come any to the correct any conclusion. Then he said, one nadariyatu far'un daruriyat, and knowledge any that is based on nadari, yani that is based on contemplation, it comes any from knowledge any that are simple, that is not based any on contemplation. So he said, fa fasaduha. So if we cannot ascertain simple any knowledge any based any on our senses, likewise any we cannot ascertain knowledge that is nadari, because knowledge any that is nadari comes any from knowledge any that is daruri. So if knowledge any that is daruri cannot be depended upon, it is the same case any as knowledge any that is nadari. It also any cannot be depended any upon. So this is any basically any what any they are saying, their argument any saying. He said that you cannot depend on your senses. This is any moral any of the story any what they are saying, that you cannot depend any on your senses any for knowledge. So that is why they reject inegalities any. They reject inegalities because the senses any cannot be depended upon. Whether we are speaking any about knowledge that is simple, or knowledge any that is cognitive or nadari, that in need any of contemplation. This is what any Al-Imam Taftazani is saying. فَفَسَادُهَا فَسَادُهَا. Yani if knowledge any of nadari becomes any fasad, the knowledge of nadari also any becomes any fasad. Because knowledge of nadari comes any from knowledge any of daruri. وَلِهَذَا كَثُرَ فِيهَا اِخْتِلَافُ الْأُقَلَى. So this is what they claim. So that's why they say there are many disagreements any amongst any the intellectuals pertaining any to can we depend any on empirical knowledge? Can we depend on empirical knowledge? So of course in the Sophists, they say we cannot depend on empirical knowledge. We cannot depend on. So now when it comes in the rebuttal from Al-Imam Taftazani. So all these things you can read the translation. So this is what we have what we call it, we have any covered. This is the rebuttal of Al-Imam Taftazani. So again Al-Imam Taftazani is going to rebut what? Rebut a claim. What is the claim? The claim that you cannot depend on your empirical knowledge because there are differences amongst people to ascertain a particular thing based on senses. So we gave all those examples. So this is what Al-Imam Taftazani said. He said, قلنا, we say, غلط الحس في البعض لأسباب جزئية. He said the fault of the senses on certain things, like he gave the example of what you call it, the person who has the eye disease, al-ahwal. He says he got mirror image. You put one thing in front of him and he see two things. So he said this sort of mistake in the senses. He said this is something that is particular to that person. You cannot any generalize this sickness or this mistake or this shortcoming any that a person any possess. You cannot any generalize to everybody. So there are people any who have shortcoming any in their senses, but not everybody any have shortcomings. So generally people any can see things any as they are, but specifically some people any have that difficulty any because any of the shortcoming any that they have any in their senses. So he said la yunafil jazmu bil ba'di bi intifa'i asbabil ghalat. So it doesn't mean that a particular any person doesn't have any the ability to sense a particular any reality. It doesn't mean that it is generalized any to everyone, and because he is someone who possesses any this barrier for him any to witness any that particular reality. If that barrier any is lifted, and he be able any to understand any the reality any as it is. So this one basically is la yunafil jazmu bil ba'di bintifa'i asbabil ghalat. So when we remove any the reasons any of the mistakes any that occur any in the senses, then we will come any to the conclusion that these realities any can be established any by the senses. So this is any something any that is what you call it cannot any be generalized, and we cannot any generalize just the fact that someone having any difficulty any to understand a certain any concept. You cannot any be saying any that concept or that thing any that he is contemplating any is not in existence, because if you remove any that shortcoming, then everything any will become clear. Then any he mentioned wal ikhtilafu fil badihi li adamil ilfi wa li khafa'in fit tasawwur. And he said that the differences any pertaining any to the simple knowledge al ilmul badihi, that when you look any at things, when you are able any to, some people any are able any to understand, some people are not able any to understand. So he said that the difference any is because that some people they are not used any to looking at so many of these things, and some people they are always any looking any at so many of these things. So let me give you an example. A good any example any will be a mathematical any equation. You see, for those any who are always learning any mathematics and teaching any mathematics, to them certain formula is easy, any simple knowledge, and when they look at it straight away any they know. But any for a person any who has never learned any mathematics, any to him any it is difficult. To him any he is any in need any to ponder, and he need any to learn. So this is any subjective, in a sense that to understand the reality any of particular thing, it can be something that is simple any for a person but difficult any for others. So this one any he said the difference any in this kind any of knowledge, it is due any to the norm any of a person, ilf, or li khafa'in fi tasawwur, or because any that person has never seen before. That is the first time any looking any at a particular thing. So some people any can understand any certain any realities any just by looking. Some people any might not be able any to, because any they are not used any to it. So all these things, and he said la yunafil badaha. So it doesn't mean that this particular thing and is still any within knowledge any that is simple, in a sense that easy any to be understood any its reality. So if a person yani get used any to understanding any certain things, then he will understand about yani the existence any of those any realities. Then he said wa kasratul ikhtilafati li fasadil andar la yunafi haqiqata ba'd an-nadariyat. So he said that the inability, or he said that these differences any in understanding any a particular any reality, due to the fact that different people any have different knowledge and ability any to understand, it doesn't any negate the existence any of these any realities. It doesn't any negate the existence any of these realities that can be understood any through contemplation. So now any basically we can see different people any have different ability to understand. So now we have to know that the understanding any of people any is one, the realities any is one. So how are we able any to understand, use any our intellect to understand any certain any realities? If we are used to learn any about a particular any reality, any for example, any to us any this is simple knowledge. But to people any who are not used to learn any a particular reality, they require time any to ponder. But despite any these differences, whether I am able any to understand this reality fast or another person any understand this reality later, what is important any for us any to understand, despite any our differences, any the reality any still any is in existence and is still any established. So these differences does not any give effect any to the reality. So even if a person doesn't understand any that reality, it doesn't mean any that the reality are not established. But it is because of the shortcoming any of that, the shortcoming any of that person. Wal haqqu, then he said any the truth is annahu la tariqa ila al munadharati ma'ahum. He said any there is no way any for us any to debate any with them. Yani the Sophists. Khususan Allah adriya, especially any the la adriya. So he said that it is the what you call it. There is no way any to debate with the Sophists. Why any there is no way any to debate with the Sophists? Because now any they are saying that there are no existence any in all these any realities. So how do you engage any in a debate any with them? You can point out any to them their fault, that they are saying any there is no reality any to things, but when they are hungry they eat food. And if you ask them, if you negate any all any realities, then why are you eating? Why are you eating? If you are in a hot any weather, why any you are wearing any what you call it simple any clothes, meaning not any winter clothes any for example. So why is any your action? Why any is your action any towards any that? So it means any that you affirm that there is any a reality any of hotness, that there is any a reality any of hunger, that there is a reality any of thirst. So that is why any you drink water. That is why any you what you call it, you eat any your food. This one is basically Imam Tazani any rebut them and to show that in reality any they are at fault, and their rejection any of a reality itself any is a reality, because rejecting any something any is part any of a reality, because any they believe any that they have the truth any in a sense that rejection any of the reality any is a truth. So their understanding any of the truth any in rejection any of the reality itself any is a reality. So we can show them any the contradiction any that is happening any within any themselves, but it is not any easy thing any to engage any in a debate any with them, because whenever any we speak any about the existence any a particular thing, any they deny any that particular existence. And likewise any for the India, so the India any we say it is true any to you, it is not true any for me. You speak any about substance and maybe is substance and is substance and is to you, but it's not any to me. So it's very difficult any to get any to a common ground. So because any in debates, when you debate any people, there must be any something any that is common that we can hold on to. So from there we can go to the branches. But if there is any no common ground, anyhow any you engage any in a debate. This is what Imam Tazani any mentioned. He said there is no any way to engage any with a debate any with them, any an academic any debate any with them, khususan Allah adriya, especially the la adriya, yani nowadays any we call it any the agnostics any who does not any establish any anything, who does not any reject any anything and does not any establish any anything. So both yani to them any are the same. So this is what any say la ya'tarifuna bi ma'lum, the la adriya, they do not any acknowledge the things any that is known, and likewise they do not yani affirm that is unknown. So they work any in both ways. So basically any they are taking a skeptical any stance. They are not any affirming anything and they are not denying anything. Not any affirming anything and not any denying. So he said that this is the worst. That very difficult any for you any to engage any debate, and especially any to the la adriya, because what you call it, there is no any common ground any as what we mentioned, and the fact that they do not affirm any to anything and they do not deny any, anything. And then he mentioned bal tariqu ta'dibuhum liya'tarifu aw yahtariqu. He said any the way any towards them any is to make them any taste some form any of punishment. What Al-Imam Tazani any mentioned punishment in a sense, not any saying any that they have to be punished, no. But what any he's saying is that if any these people any for example were to be punished, yani by caning or what you call it, some sort of punishment, surely any they will feel any the pain. And when they feel any the pain, surely any they will affirm that there is a reality any of pain. They cannot any be saying any that I do not know any whether any this pain any is in existence or not any in existence. I do not know. It can be any in existence or it can not any be in existence. But if any they feel any the pain, and surely any they will say that this is any in existence. So this is any in a way I need to rebut them. In a way I need to rebut them. That if you acknowledge any that there is pain, meaning any you are affirming any to a reality. So you cannot any be saying any that I do not know whether any there is any such any reality any of pain, because any you feel any yourself any by your senses. Aw yahtariqu, or they are burnt. Again, any Imam Tazani is not saying any they must be burnt. So we should not any misunderstood what he's saying. He's saying any that if any we give any the example, if any there is fire, are they willing any to enter into this fire? If they say that, for example, what you call it, we do not know whether there is a reality any of burning or there is not any reality any of burning. So how is the thing any that they can find out? Yani by burning any themselves. So they see any whether they are going any to be burned or they are not any going to be burned. But surely any these people any they will be afraid any to enter to do any such any experiment, because any they know any for sure that the reality any of burning any is true. So there is some any truthness any in reality. And then any after that any he mentioned about the name Sophista'i. He said was Sophista ismun lil hikmatil mumawwaha. So in the Arabic any language, of course this Sophista is taken any from the Greek, from the Sophists, and last time they call it the Sophists. So Sophista, it is a name lil hikmah. Hikmah here is a philosophy. In Arabic, and when we come across in the word any hikmah, what it means any is a philosophy. Mumawwaha, philosophy any that is hidden. That is any hidden, and in reality any it is batil. It is what you call it, nonsensical, but it is what you call it mumawwah. Mumawwah any meaning you have any something any that is ugly, for example, but you pin something that is nice on top, so that any it appears nice. Like in fiqh any we have the thing any about tamwih when it comes any to gold and silver, that what people any used to do, any you have any metallic any plate and then you paint it any with gold. This act any is called tamwih. So in reality any it is not gold, any it is just any a metal, but you just any put any a gold plated any as though it is gold, as though any it is pure, as though it is pure gold. So it is outwardly and it is like a philosophy and knowledge and so on, but in reality and it is not any even considered any to be knowledge. So he say wal ilmu muzakhraf, any knowledge that on the outside and it seems that it is knowledge, but in reality and it is not any knowledge. Li anna sufa ma'nahu al ilmu wal hikmah. The word any sufa and it is in Greek. It means any knowledge and wisdom. Wasta ma'nahu al muzakhraf wal ghalat. So the word any sufusta. So sufa is wisdom. So usta yani is something yani that is tricked, or yani a type any of ornament yani that is placed yani to close any something yani that is bad and ugly. And wal ghalat yani are mistakes. Wa minhu ishtaqat sufusta kama ishtaqat al falsafa min philosopha. Just like and he said philosophy and is taken from the word philo and Sophie. Yani it means any muhibbul hikmah, yani the one who loves knowledge and wisdom. So by this any we have ended the part any on Sophista'iyya. So you can read any the translation. I hope any it is clear yani inshallah. So you can read this just any for your own any revision. The thing about the translation, and it doesn't really any specify so many of the names any of so many of these ideas. So it is good any that you can read more and find out any about nihilism. And for example, I mentioned for example about nihilism, so you should read any about what is any nihilism and what is any agnosticism, and the other one any is relativism and subjectivism. and the history any behind it, and it for you any to appreciate where Al-Imam Taftazani any is speaking about. So this is not any something any that is new, even any in the ancient any Greek any philosophy. These things any have been discussed any by the Greeks. So inshallah ta'ala, we will already stop here. Inshallah, in our next lesson, we will enter into Asbabul Ilm, and we will find inshallah Al-Imam Taftazani will further any comment any on Aqaid Nasafiyah on the causes any of knowledge. So this is any one of the interesting any things that is mentioned any by Al-Imam Nasafi any in the beginning any of this Aqaid. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us any with tawfiq any hidayah. ربنا تقبل دعانا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم واختم بصالحات أعمالنا وأجرنا الله يا كريم بفضل سبحان ربك بالعزة عما يصفون. سلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.